In the heart of a bustling city, on a chilly evening, Marcus was finishing his shift at the local mechanic shop. He had always been a simple man, working hard to make ends meet. He wasn't rich, but he was content with his life. His small apartment, located on the second floor of an old building, was modest, with just enough space for a worn-out couch, a few tools scattered across the table, and a small kitchen with a fridge that was often empty. Yet it was his sanctuary. That night, as he walked home, tired from another long day, he noticed something strange. Two small figures huddled together in the alley next to his building. They looked cold and hungry, their clothes ragged and torn. One was a little girl, no older than 6, with dirt-streaked skin and wide, fearful eyes. The other was a girl a bit older, perhaps 10 or 11, with a similar look of distress. They were sitting on the ground, holding on to each other as though they were the only things keeping the world from swallowing them whole. Marcus didn't hesitate. He walked toward them, his heart aching at the sight. He had always believed that kindness was something that should be offered without thinking, without expectation. He had seen too many people turn a blind eye to those in need, too many people walking by without a second thought. That was not who Marcus was. "Hey," Marcus said softly, crouching down in front of them. "Are you two okay?" The older girl looked up, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and confusion. She said nothing, but her eyes seemed to plead for help. The younger one, shaking from the cold, wrapped her arms around her sister as if to protect her. Marcus knelt down and offered a gentle smile. "You look hungry," he said, his voice warm. "Come on, let's get you something to eat." The two girls exchanged a glance, unsure of what to do. But hunger won over fear. They nodded silently, and Marcus helped them to their feet. He led them into his apartment, the door creaking as it opened. The girls hesitated at first, but Marcus reassured them. "You're safe here," he said. Inside, the apartment was modest, with only a few simple furnishings. Marcus gestured toward the small kitchen. "I don't have much, but I can make you a warm meal," he said. The girls stood by the door, unsure of what to do next, but Marcus smiled at them. "Make yourselves comfortable. I'll get something. Cooking." He moved to the stove, pulling out some pasta and canned vegetables he had in the pantry. It wasn't much, but it would be enough to fill their stomachs. As he worked, he glanced back at the two girls, who had slowly sat down at the small table. They were still silent, their eyes darting around the room as if they were waiting for something. Marcus could tell they were nervous, but he didn't press them for answers. They had been through enough. After a few minutes, the smell of cooking, food filled the small apartment. The girls' eyes softened as they smelled the food, and for the first time since Marcus had met them, they seemed to relax a little. The older girl spoke, her voice soft but steady. "You don't have to do this," she said, her accent strange and unfamiliar. "We can take care of ourselves." Marcus stopped what he was doing and turned to face her. "Everyone needs help sometimes," he said simply. "No one should have to go hungry." The girl seemed to hesitate, but then nodded quietly, her eyes studying Marcus with a mix of gratitude and suspicion. The younger girl, still too afraid to speak, clutched her sister's hand tightly. Marcus finished cooking the meal, plating it, and placing it on the table in front of them. "Here you go," he said, sitting down across from them. "It's not much, but it's warm. You can eat as much as you want." The girls didn't need any more encouragement. They dug in immediately, the hunger in their eyes replaced with relief as they devoured the meal. Marcus watched them for a moment, the silence in the room comfortable now. He could tell they were starved, not just for food, but for the simple human kindness that he had shown them. As they ate, Marcus spoke softly. "Where are your parents?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. The older girl paused mid-bite, glancing at her sister before looking back at him. "They're gone," she said, her voice trembling. We don't have anyone else. Marcus nodded, understanding the weight of her words. I'm sorry, he said sincerely, but you're not alone anymore. You can stay here tonight. And we'll figure things out in the morning, all right? The girls didn't answer, but they didn't need to. Their faces softened, and Marcus could see the trust building in their eyes. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing for certain. He had made a difference, even if it was just for one night. After the meal, Marcus offered them a warm blanket and a place to sleep on the couch. He didn't have much, but he could give them comfort for the night. He couldn't offer them much more, but he could offer them safety, something that the world had denied them for so long. The girls lay down, their eyes heavy with exhaustion, and within moments they were asleep. Marcus sat in the small armchair across the room, watching over them. As he sat there, a strange thought crossed his mind. These girls, they were not like anyone he had ever met. There was something about them, something that felt otherworldly, but he quickly dismissed the thought. They were just children, just two orphaned girls in need of care. He had done what anyone should do in his position, but little did Marcus know. This act of kindness was the beginning of something much bigger than he could ever imagine. These girls, who seemed so small and fragile, would one day change his life in ways that no one could predict. For now, he simply watched over them as they slept, his heart swelling with a quiet sense of fulfillment. In a world that often seemed cold and indifferent, Marcus had proven that even the smallest acts of kindness could make all the difference. The days passed quietly after Marcus took in the two orphan girls. They slept soundly every night, and during the day, Marcus kept them busy with simple chores. As much as they appreciated his kindness, they were still cautious. They were used to surviving on their own, so accepting help didn't come easily to them. The older girl, who Marcus had learned was named Lyra, often watched him from the corner of the room, her sharp eyes taking in everything. The younger girl, Mira, stayed closer to her sister, rarely speaking, but her eyes were always filled with curiosity. Marcus, being the patient man that he was, didn't push them to open up. He simply treated them with respect, ensuring they felt safe in his home. He cooked for them, made sure they had clean clothes, and even bought a few toys for Mira, who was a little less guarded than her sister. Slowly, the girls began to trust him. Lyra would sometimes offer a small smile when Marcus did something kind, and Mira, though still silent, began to laugh when Marcus made funny faces or told silly jokes. One morning, Marcus woke up earlier than usual to make breakfast. He noticed both girls were still asleep, their faces peaceful in their sleep. He smiled softly and decided to give them a surprise. He'd saved a little money over the past few weeks, so he went out and bought some fresh fruit, eggs, and a loaf of bread. By the time the girls woke up, the smell of breakfast filled the small apartment. "Good morning." Marcus greeted them with his usual warm smile. Lyra blinked sleepily, but she still gave him a quiet nod. Mira, still half asleep, rubbed her eyes and let out a small yawn. The moment she saw the breakfast spread, her face lit up with excitement, and she nearly jumped out of bed. Lyra quickly grabbed her sister's hand, stopping her from rushing out of bed. "Slow down," she whispered, but even she couldn't hide the smile that tugged at her lips. "I made something special," Marcus said, motioning for them to sit at the table. "Eat as much as you want. It's a special day." The girls exchanged a confused look, but neither asked why it was special. They were simply glad to have food that wasn't from a can. As they ate, Marcus watched them closely. It had been a few weeks since they had arrived, and already he could see the change in them. They weren't as wary, and their faces looked brighter, less burdened by fear. Mira had even started to speak a little more, asking Marcus about things like the sky and how the plants grew. Lyra, though still quiet, began to ask questions of her own, sometimes even smiling when Marcus made a funny remark. For the first time, in what felt like forever, Marcus felt a sense of happiness that wasn't tied to work or the daily grind. Having the girls around gave his life a sense of purpose. He had always been alone before, never really having anyone to share his home with, but now, with Lyra and Mira, he didn't feel so lonely. As the weeks went on, Marcus noticed more changes in the girls. They seemed to grow stronger, more confident. Mira, who had been shy and withdrawn, started playing outside with the other. Kids in the building, her laughter echoing through the hallways. Lyra, though still reserved, began to show more of her true nature. She helped Marcus with little things like fixing up old furniture and tidying up the apartment. She was clever and quick, always asking questions about how things worked, how things were built. It was clear to Marcus that she was intelligent, perhaps too intelligent for her age. One evening, as they sat around the table after dinner, Marcus noticed that Lyra had been staring at him for a while. It wasn't the usual look of gratitude or curiosity. This was different. There was something more serious in her eyes. "Marcus," she began, her voice softer than usual, "we need to tell you something." Marcus raised an eyebrow, a little, surprised by her sudden change in tone. "What's wrong?" he asked, setting down his cup of tea. Lyra hesitated, glancing at Mira, who was sitting quietly beside her. The younger girl was drawing pictures on a napkin, completely unaware of the heavy conversation that was about to unfold. Lyra looked back at Marcus and took a deep breath. "We aren't from here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're not like other people." Marcus furrowed his brow, not quite understanding what she meant. "What do you mean?" Mira stopped drawing and looked up, her eyes wide with a strange kind of intensity. She set the napkin down carefully and then spoke for the first time in a long while. "We're from far away, not from Earth." Marcus sat back in his chair, his mind racing to make sense of what the girls were saying. "What do you mean, far away?" he asked again, now feeling a sense of unease settling in his stomach. Lyra's expression remained serious, but there was a flicker of something behind her eyes, a deep sadness mixed with something else, something that Marcus couldn't quite place. "We're from another world, a place far beyond the stars, our people, our family. They sent us here to Earth for a reason you won't understand yet." Marcus blinked in disbelief. He had heard stories, crazy, impossible stories, but this was something he never could have imagined. He looked at Mira, who nodded in silent agreement, then back to Lyra, who was watching him closely, waiting for his reaction. The silence between them was thick, and Marcus struggled to find the right words. "So, you're telling me you're not from Earth?" he finally asked, the weight of the words sinking in. "No," Lyra replied. "We're not." Marcus couldn't help but let out a nervous laugh, trying to process everything. This is insane. Lyra cut him off. "You'll understand soon, but first, know this. You have done something no one else has done for us. You took us in. You gave us a home. And for that, we owe you more than you could ever imagine." Marcus sat back, the reality of the situation slowly dawning on him. The girls were aliens. They were from another world. His mind whirled with questions. Questions that had no answers. But one thing was clear. This simple act of kindness had changed everything. The days following Lyra's revelation were filled with questions, confusion, and a deep sense of unease. Marcus tried to understand what the girls had told him, but the idea that they were not from Earth seemed too impossible to grasp. It felt like a dream, one he couldn't wake up from. And yet, the more he thought about it, the more he realized that the pieces were starting to fit together. For one, the girls weren't like other children. It wasn't just the strange look in their eyes, or the way they seemed to know things. That didn't make sense for their age. Lyra, in particular, had shown an advanced understanding of how things worked. She'd fixed things around the apartment that Marcus had no idea how to repair, old radios, electrical outlets, and even a broken heater that had been bothering him for months. It was as though she knew exactly how to bring them back to life. The strange events didn't stop there. Mira, who had once been quiet and shy, had started demonstrating an uncanny ability to communicate without speaking. At first, Marcus thought it was just his imagination. But then, it happened again. She was sitting in the living room drawing pictures on her napkin when Marcus noticed something odd. She had placed her hand on the table, and the pencil she had been holding seemed to move on its own, guided by an invisible force. Marcus stood frozen, watching in disbelief as the pencil moved across the page, drawing shapes he couldn't understand. Mira smiled softly, as though she knew exactly what she was doing. "Mira?" Marcus asked, gently, stepping closer. The girl looked up at him, her eyes full of understanding. "I can do it," she whispered. "Do what?" Marcus asked, his voice shaky. He was starting to feel like everything was spiraling out of his control. These were just two orphan girls he had helped out of kindness. They couldn't possibly be aliens. It didn't make sense. Lyra walked into the room at that moment, sensing Marcus's confusion. She didn't need to ask what was going on. She could tell by the look on his face. "It's true," she said quietly. "We are not like other humans, and there's more to us than what you see." Marcus, still trying to process everything, took a seat on the couch, rubbing his temples. "What are you telling me, Lyra?" he asked. "You're not from Earth?" "No," Lyra replied softly. "We were sent here, but not by choice. Our family, our people, have been watching over Earth for a long time, and we were chosen. You took us in when no one else would. You gave us a chance when others would have turned us away. That's why we're here." Marcus couldn't find the words. His head was spinning. "So what happens now?" he asked. "What does this all mean?" Lyra's expression softened. "It means that we are bound to a destiny that involves you, Marcus." Marcus stood up, pacing the small apartment. "You've got to be kidding me. How could I possibly be part of this? I'm just a mechanic, a regular guy. I'm not some chosen one." Mira stood up, her voice so soft that it was almost like a whisper. "It's not like that," she said. "You didn't choose this, but you're part of it now. You have been ever since you gave us a warm meal." Marcus stopped in his tracks, his heart pounding. "What does that mean? What am I supposed to do with all this?" Lyra stepped forward, her gaze steady. "It means you are more important than you think. The kindness you showed us, the way you took care of us, that wasn't just an accident. You've become a part of something bigger than yourself, Marcus. You're tied to a legacy, ours, and a legacy that will change everything." The weight of her words hung heavy in the room. Marcus had been expecting an explanation, but not like this. He had no idea what kind of legacy they were talking about or how it involved him. The more he thought about it, the more questions popped into his head. But there was one thing that was undeniable. These girls, Lyra and Mira, weren't just ordinary children. They were special. "You say it's a legacy," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But what does that mean for me? What do you want from me?" Lyra looked down for a moment as though she was trying to find the right words. Then she met Marcus's eyes, her expression unwavering. "We're not the only ones like us. There are others out there, other civilizations, other beings. Some of them are peaceful, like us, but some aren't." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" Lyra's gaze darkened slightly. "There are those who seek to control the galaxy, to dominate other worlds, to take what isn't theirs. They know we're here, Marcus, And they know what you've done for us. That's why they'll come for you. They'll come for us. Marcus's heart raced. This was more than he had bargained for. He had simply helped 2 orphan girls, giving them a place to stay, a warm meal, a chance at a better life. And now, it seemed that simple act of kindness had drawn the attention of forces he couldn't even begin to understand. "What can I do?" Marcus asked, his voice barely audible. Lyra stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. "You've already done more than enough. By taking us in, by showing us kindness, you've proven that humanity is capable of great things. You've earned our respect and the respect of our people. But now, the true challenge begins. We will need you, and the galaxy will need you." Marcus took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing thoughts. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," he admitted. "But if I've learned anything, it's that sometimes you don't get to choose what happens. You just have to face it." Lyra nodded. "That's exactly it, Marcus. You're stronger than you know." The weight of the situation settled on Marcus's shoulders. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He wasn't just a man helping 2 lost girls. He was tied to something far larger than himself, a galaxy-spanning legacy that was just beginning to unfold. And as he looked at Lyra and Mira, he knew one thing for certain. There was no turning back. It was early morning when the knock came. The soft, almost hesitant tap on the door seemed out of place in the quiet of the apartment. Marcus had just finished his usual morning routine of brewing coffee and cleaning up the kitchen when the sound echoed through the space. He froze, the mug in his hand halfway to his mouth. A quick glance at Lyra and Mira, who were sitting at the table, told him they had heard it too. Both girls looked at him with expressions of unreadable calm. "Who could that be?" Marcus muttered, setting the coffee mug down. His mind was racing. Since learning the truth about the girls, things had been strange, even overwhelming. But no one had come to the apartment. No one had knocked on the door, at least not until now. Lyra stood up from the table, her eyes filled with a silent urgency. Mira's gaze shifted to Lyra, then back to Marcus. Without saying a word, Lyra walked toward the door, her steps deliberate but silent. Marcus could feel the tension in the room, thick and heavy, and he instinctively followed her. "Lyra, who—" Marcus started, but Lyra held up her hand, signaling for him to stay quiet. With one last glance at Marcus, Lyra opened the door, and what stood before them took Marcus's breath away. A sleek, silver ship hovered just outside the building. It was a design unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It wasn't just any spaceship. It looked alive, the surface shifting in a way that suggested it was made of something organic, not mechanical. The ship was hovering about 3 feet off the ground, its dark surface gleaming in the early morning sunlight. Marcus couldn't help but step back, feeling an odd mix of awe and fear. A woman stood at the base of the ship, her presence commanding and regal. She wasn't human, not in any sense that Marcus understood. Her features were beautiful but alien, a soft, ethereal glow surrounding her, giving her an otherworldly appearance. Her skin was a shimmering shade of violet, and her hair, long and silver, flowed in a way that seemed almost weightless. Her eyes, bright and piercing, locked onto Marcus with a gaze that felt as if she could see straight through him. Lyra stepped forward and bowed her head slightly. "Mother," she said quietly, though there was no hint of fear in her voice. It was more of a sign of respect, a recognition of power and authority. The woman, who Marcus could only assume was Lyra's mother, stepped closer, her gaze now shifting between Lyra and Marcus. She was taller than Lyra, her posture regal, every movement precise and deliberate. The air around her seemed to hum with energy, as though she carried with her the weight of centuries of knowledge and power. Lyra. The woman's voice was melodic, smooth as silk. "You have done well." Lyra nodded, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. A deep sadness? Marcus couldn't tell. She seemed torn, as though something was weighing heavily on her heart. "And you, Marcus?" The woman turned her gaze toward him, her voice softening ever so slightly. "I know you are not from our world, but you have proven yourself. Your actions have not gone unnoticed." She paused for a moment, her eyes scanning Marcus's face. "You have earned the respect of my people." Marcus stood frozen, unsure of what to say or do. His mind was still processing everything: the spaceship, the alien woman, Lyra's true origins, and now this. It felt like his entire world was falling apart, and yet he couldn't look away from her. There was something magnetic about her presence, something that made him feel both insignificant and important at the same time. "I don't understand," Marcus finally said, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Why are you here?" The woman smiled, though the expression was more distant than kind. "I am here to offer you a choice," she said. "Lyra and Mira are not the only ones of their kind. They are part of a larger legacy, one that spans across the stars. Their journey on Earth has come to its end. But for you, Marcus, this is just the beginning." Lyra and Mira exchanged a look, their faces betraying nothing. Lyra's hand subtly gripped Mira's, offering her comfort. Mira, for the first time, spoke, her voice steady but soft. "Mother," she said, her words filled with a quiet strength. "What do you mean?" The woman glanced at Mira and then back at Marcus, her expression unreadable. "You have proven yourself worthy, Marcus. You have shown compassion and strength, qualities that our people value. We are not like humans in many ways, but we share one thing in common with you: our respect for those who act from the heart. You have earned a place among us if you so choose." Marcus's mind was racing. This wasn't just a random visit. It wasn't just a friendly thank you for helping two orphaned girls. This was something bigger, something that would change his life forever. "You're telling me that you want me to join you?" he asked slowly, trying to wrap his mind around the idea. "Why?" The woman looked at him thoughtfully for a long moment before speaking again. "Because you have done what no one else has been able to do. You've protected them, Marcus. You've taken them in, shown them love, when others would have turned away. That is why you have been chosen." Marcus shook his head, still struggling to understand. Chosen for what? The woman's gaze softened ever so slightly. "We are an ancient people, bound by duty and honor. We have watched over many worlds, and we have seen the rise and fall of civilizations. Lyra and Mira are part of a prophecy, and now you are as well. Your connection to them is not an accident. Your kindness has tied you to something much larger than you can imagine. And now it is time to decide. Will you remain here, on Earth, where you have lived your life? Or will you join us in the stars to see the galaxy and help shape its future?" Marcus's head was spinning. He had lived his whole life working with machines, fixing things with his hands, leading a simple life. Now it seemed the universe had other plans for him. He had always wanted adventure, but never like this. Marcus hesitated, looking between Lyra, Mira, and the alien woman. His heart raced with uncertainty, but a strange feeling of destiny lingered in the air. "I don't know if I'm ready for this." "You don't have to be ready," the woman said gently. "You've already made the first step." The weight of the decision pressed down on Marcus. He had only ever wanted to live a simple life, but it seemed the universe had other plans for him. The silence in the apartment was thick, almost suffocating. Marcus stood in the doorway, staring at the alien woman, the being who claimed to be Lyra and Mira's mother. Her presence felt like a storm, swirling around him, making everything else feel distant and insignificant. The ship outside hummed quietly, almost as if it was waiting for something, waiting for him. The weight of the decision she had given him hung in the air like a thick fog. Marcus could feel his heart pounding, unsure of what to do next. I don't know what to say," Marcus whispered, his voice trembling with uncertainty. The woman smiled gently, her violet eyes softening just a little. "There is no need to say anything, Marcus. The choice is yours. You do not have to make it now. But know this. You are part of something far greater than anything you have ever known." Lyra and Mira stood a little behind her, watching silently. Lyra's gaze was unreadable, but Marcus could sense the quiet anticipation in her. Mira's eyes, on the other hand, seemed filled with an almost pleading intensity. She wanted him to understand, to make the right decision, but what that decision was, Marcus couldn't yet tell. "I'm just a mechanic," Marcus said, his voice sounding smaller than usual. "I fix things. I work with my hands. I'm not someone who belongs out there." He gestured weakly toward the hovering spaceship. "I don't know anything about this. About you, or whatever destiny you're talking about." The alien woman stepped closer, her movements graceful and measured. "What you are, Marcus, is something rare. A being who acts from the heart. A being who has shown kindness when others would have ignored it. And that is why we have come for you. Your actions, though they may seem simple to you, have brought you into our world. You have a place with us, if you choose to accept it." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just about helping two lost girls anymore. This wasn't just about feeding them or offering them a place to stay. It was something much bigger, something cosmic, something that made him feel as if his entire life had led to this moment. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "But why me? Why not someone else? I'm nothing special." The woman's expression softened, her gaze kind yet filled with authority. "It is not about being special, Marcus. It is about your actions, your kindness. That is what makes you rare. You have proven that the heart of humanity is strong enough to stand alongside us." Lyra spoke up, her voice steady, though there was an underlying tension in it. "You've taken care of us, Marcus. You've protected us when we were alone. You showed us what it means to be human. And now we are asking you to decide. You can continue your life here, with us as part of it, or you can leave all this behind. The choice is yours." Marcus looked at Lyra, his eyes searching hers for something, anything, that could make sense of all this. But all he saw was honesty. Lyra wasn't asking for anything more than what had already been given. She wasn't pushing him to make the decision, but the weight of the words hung heavy in the air. "And if I choose to leave?" Marcus asked, his voice quieter now. "What happens then?" The woman tilted her head, her gaze thoughtful. "If you choose to remain on Earth, we will leave. You will be free to live your life as you have always known it. But if you choose to join us, to become part of something greater, then your life will change forever. You will see the stars. You will travel among worlds, learn things beyond imagination, and discover truths that will shape your understanding of everything." Marcus took a step back, his mind racing. He had always been a simple man. He didn't want to be part of anything grand, anything that would pull him away from his quiet life. He was comfortable in his routine, fixing things, helping others, living a life that felt predictable and safe. But now, standing here, looking at the alien woman, at Lyra and Mira, he felt as though his world was being turned upside down. "You're asking me to leave everything behind," Marcus said, more to himself than anyone else. "My home, my life, everything I know, for something I can't even fully understand." "Yes," the woman replied gently. "But that is what life is, Marcus. It is the unknown that calls to us, that pushes us to grow. You have already shown the strength to do what others would not. And now, the universe is offering you the chance to be part of something that will change not just your life, but the future of many worlds. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, his thoughts a chaotic jumble. He had never imagined anything like this. All his life he had been content with what he had. But now, the offer before him felt so much bigger. He could stay, live a quiet life, continue fixing things, doing what he had always done. Or he could leave Earth, join Lyra and Mira, and see the galaxy, perhaps even help save it from whatever. Dark forces were threatening it. He thought of the girls. He thought of their quiet smiles, the way they had trusted him when they had nothing else, the way they had changed, from frightened, lost children to strong young women who now held secrets, far beyond his understanding. They were offering him a place in their world, in their journey. And it wasn't just for them. It was for something greater, something that would affect everything. "What do you think?" Marcus asked, turning to Lyra and Mira. They had become so much more than just two orphaned girls to him. They were part of his world now, part of his family. And this decision would affect them too. Lyra met his gaze, her expression calm but full of understanding. "We are asking because we trust you, Marcus. We know you can make the right choice." Mira's voice was quiet, almost hesitant, but there was a certain certainty in it. "Whatever you decide, we'll be with you. We trust you." Marcus looked at the woman, then at Lyra and Mira, then back to the spaceship that waited just outside. It seemed like a dream, a world beyond his comprehension. And yet it was real. The universe had just opened up before him, and now it was his choice to make. He exhaled deeply, a sense of finality settling in his chest. "I can't stay here, not with all this waiting for me. I have to know what's out there." The woman smiled, her eyes filled with a knowing pride. "Then you have made your choice, Marcus. Welcome to the stars." And just like that, Marcus's life changed forever. The stars were bright, far brighter than Marcus had ever seen before. The spaceship moved through the galaxy, its sleek surface shimmering under the vastness of space. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt like he was truly alive. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore, working on broken machines or fixing old cars. Now he was traveling among the stars, heading toward a future that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Beside him, Lyra and Mira stood at the observation window, their eyes wide with wonder. They had seen the stars before, but there was something different about this journey, something that felt like a new chapter was about to unfold for all of them. Marcus looked at the two girls, both of whom had become so much more than just orphans. They were now his family, his companions, and together, they were about to embark on an adventure none of them had ever imagined. "You okay?" Lyra asked, glancing at Marcus. Her voice was calm, but there was a hint of something like anticipation. She had seen this kind of journey before, but this time it was different. This time, it was with Marcus. Marcus took a deep breath, his eyes still fixed on the stars. "I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of this," he admitted. "It's hard to believe this is real. I was just fixing engines, and now I'm on a spaceship." Lyra smiled. "It's real, Marcus. And you belong here, with us. You've already proven that." Mira, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. Her voice was soft, but it carried a sense of certainty. "You've done so much for us already, and now we're going to do the same for you." Marcus turned to look at Mira. She had always been the quieter one of the two, but now she seemed different, stronger. There was a quiet power in her words, and he felt a swell of pride for her. She wasn't the scared little girl he had first met anymore. She had grown, just like Lyra. He nodded, his gaze flicking back to the endless expanse of space. "I don't know what's ahead of us," he said, his voice thoughtful, But I know that whatever it is, we'll face it together. The ship continued its journey through the stars, leaving Earth far behind. As the days passed, Marcus began to adjust to life on the ship. It wasn't just a ship, it was a living thing, a blend of technology and organic matter that pulsed with energy. There were rooms to explore, places that seemed almost like they were made of light and air, constantly shifting and changing. It was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The ship itself felt like a living, breathing organism, constantly adapting to its surroundings. Lyra and Mira taught him things he never thought possible: advanced knowledge of space travel, alien technology, and the history of civilizations far beyond Earth. They shared stories of worlds he couldn't even pronounce, of creatures and societies that existed beyond his wildest imagination. But as much as they shared, there were still questions left unanswered. There were things about their past, their people, that they hadn't told him yet. It was clear that their journey was about more than just Marcus joining them. It was about a greater purpose, a destiny that was still unfolding. One evening, as they sat around a table in the ship's communal room, Marcus asked the question that had been on his mind since they left Earth. "Why me?" he asked, his voice quiet. "I'm just an ordinary guy. I've never done anything special. I've never been part of anything important." Lyra and Mira exchanged a look, and for a moment, Marcus thought they might not answer. But then Lyra spoke, her voice steady. "You're wrong, Marcus," she said. "You've done something far more important than you realize. You showed us what it meant to be human. You taught us that there's more to life than survival. You showed us that compassion, kindness, and love are stronger than any weapon, any power." Marcus looked at her, surprised. "I didn't do anything extraordinary," he said. "You did?" Mira added softly. "You gave us a chance. When no one else would, you gave us a home. You showed us what it means to be safe." Marcus felt a lump in his throat. He had always thought of himself as just a mechanic, a man who fixed things. But in that moment, he realized that what he had given to Lyra and Mira was far more than tools or repairs. He had given them a future, a chance to live without fear, to live with hope. He had given them something that couldn't be fixed or repaired. It was a gift of the heart, something that no amount of skill or knowledge could replace. "I never thought of it like that," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "I guess I've always just tried to do what's right." "You didn't just do what was right," Lyra said, her voice warm. "You did what others wouldn't. You did what we needed." Marcus took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. It wasn't about the grand adventure or the mystery of the universe anymore. It was about the people, about Lyra, Mira, and the new family he had found in the stars. They had given him a purpose, a reason to keep going, even when everything around him seemed uncertain. And now he had to give them the same. The stars outside the ship flickered like tiny diamonds scattered across an endless sky. Marcus gazed at them, the weight of everything finally sinking in. He wasn't just along for the ride. He was part of something bigger, something that would shape the future of many worlds. And with Lyra and Mira by his side, he knew he wasn't alone. They had made the impossible real, and together, they were ready to face whatever came next. "We have a long journey ahead," Marcus said, his voice firm with resolve. "But I'm ready." Lyra and Mira smiled at him, their faces full of trust and hope. They had chosen him, and now he had chosen them. The universe was vast, full of mysteries and dangers, but for the first time, Marcus felt ready to face it all. As the ship moved deeper into the unknown, he felt a sense of peace settle over him. This was just the beginning, and whatever came next, he knew they would face it together, as a family. The stars were no longer distant lights in the sky. They were the path ahead, a path that Marcus was ready to walk, with Lyra and Mira by his side. And so, with the ship carrying them toward the vast unknown, they embarked on a new chapter, one that would change the galaxy forever.